Hello everyone, welcome back to Just My Stupid Opinion. I'm Adrian Lloyd. So today I just wanted to talk about the new Project Veritas video that ended up coming out, and it's not going to be a long video. I know a bunch of people are already talking about it. I'm not going to go into too much about the whole thing. I was something specific that I wanted to focus on. See, everyone else that I see that is talking about this Project Veritas video, the one where they went to Google, they're talking about how it's proof that Google is censoring conservative and conservative channels, conservative talking points. And this is absolutely true, but I find that very few are really talking about the real meaty part of that video. And for me, what I thought was most alarming about it was the fact that the Google Thought Police were going to use this new AI algorithm, this ML fairness as they called it. They were going to use it in a way to manipulate elections. And I thought that, to me, was the most important part. It came not from the actual Google insider himself, who was censored and voice alteration. It wasn't that part, but it was actually during the undercover video part where they were talking to Jen Janai, who was the head of responsible innovation at Google. She was the one that was pretty much saying that ever since the 2016 presidential election happened, when Donald Trump ended up getting elected, that Google was changing its algorithm and went from a platform that was meant to give you information to now policing thoughts. And it was because they were looking in order to make sure that in 2020, what happened in 2016 doesn't happen again, meaning the election, the election of Donald Trump. And that, to me, is the most damning part. That, to me, was the part that concerned me the most. Many people have talked about election interference, and the whole Russia conspiracy has been a big one. And there are some conservatives and right-wingers out there who have spoken about the actual how Google and Facebook, Twitter, and all these social media platforms are the bigger threat to when it comes to a free and fair election. But this just proved it, because you here had the biggest search engine in the world and one of the biggest data companies, probably the biggest data company actually, in the whole world, that is actively trying to push an ideology, actively trying to prevent someone from getting elected to the presidency because of it. Now, that concerns me, considering how Google and Facebook are going to be playing an instrumental part here in Canada come the 2019 election, because we're just a few months away, about 4 months or so now away from the actual election itself. Crept on us pretty fast, if you ask me. But most people are going to be relying on these platforms, specifically Google, in order to tell them what's been going on in the last 4 years since Trudeau ended up getting elected. And if you look into Trudeau and a lot of the third parties and think tanks that are involved with him, it's actually a video I'm working on right now, you'll see that Google actually has played an instrumental role in some of these think tanks, like Canada 2020 and Data Science Inc., which is actually a private company owned by one of Trudeau's childhood friends, Thomas Pitfield. But even with Google himself, you got Patrick Piché, who worked for Google, who sits on the Trudeau Foundation. So Trudeau is in bed with these people, and we already know that Facebook has come out saying that they're trying to combat fake news in this upcoming election. So this is really the part that really concerns me, and I think that this is the real election manipulation that we're going to be ending up seeing come out. Because right now people are talking about Russia using these social media platforms. It's not them we have to worry about. It's the ideology that is getting presented by these people. There's going to be search engines that end up getting repressed by Google that are important to what's going on. I've said for many times that most people in Canada, and most people just, I think in general, are not politically active, not politically knowledgeable. They don't really pay much attention to what's going on. They may read the news every day, but they don't try and retain it. And more or less, when it comes to campaign season, when it comes to election time, they kind of poke their head out of the sand and they try and figure out what's been going on for the last 4 years, what's going to be going on in the next 4 years, which party is best for them. And those are the non-partisans. Those are the people who just kind of don't really fall into the category of which side they don't really fall into a political side. They're kind of just there and going to go cast their vote on election day. So if you have Google that are manipulating results, manipulating what people see, then a lot of people are not going to see, say, the scandals that have happened over the last 4 years under Trudeau. And certain things now I've noticed that as time has gone on, it's actually getting quite difficult in order to find certain things. Like one thing I was searching for the other day, and I actually had a very difficult time finding it, is for those who remember that when Bill C-76, I believe, Bill C-76, I'm pretty sure, the one that was going to make changes to Elections Canada, there was that moment where people came to realize that Trudeau tried to implement those changes before it had been either been debated on or voted on in the House of Commons. And even though Trudeau has a majority government and it was going to pass, it was quite concerning that the sitting prime minister was willing to try and ram through these without the proper parliamentary process. And going back and trying to find that was actually kind of difficult. Even putting in key words, I still had actually a pretty difficult time. In fact, I stopped using Google and I went to spencerfernando.com because I knew he had reported on in the past that I used his search engine in order to find it. And I did eventually find what I was looking for. But it was just things like that. The fact that people aren't really going to be able to find what they're looking for. And you have Trudeau is actually right in line with their ideology, what they're trying to put forward, and what this ML fairness AI algorithm is trying to do. Things like that they talked about, if you didn't see the Project Veritas video, is that they said things like, if you try and look up certain things, it's all about fairness. So, for instance, if you type in CEO of a company, then the fact that most CEOs are male, they're not going to show that. They're going to show an even distributed 50-50 of CEOs who are male to female. So you get what they call fairness. But even as this anonymous insider that Project Veritas ended up censoring, even this insider ended up saying that when we're talking about this idea of ML fairness, you have to apply doublethink. It's not about being fair. It's about pushing an ideology. This political correctness, SJW ideology. This is what it's really about, and Trudeau falls right in line with that ideology, which is why this is a lot of the ideology that is also being pushed forward by Twitter and Facebook, and it's just, there was a report just recently by Blacklock that ended up saying that there were over 100,000 illegals, not illegals per se, but immigrants to Canada who did not have the right to vote that ended up voting, and many of them were in these swing ridings where the Conservatives only lost out by the skin off their teeth. It was really only by a few votes that they ended up losing, and so they were wondering if this affected the election outcome into how Justin Trudeau ended up getting elected. Now we have this sort of problem already. There's already seems like there's discrepancies leading up to the election itself, but we also now have these big tech companies that are also going to try and be censoring the right-wing conservative point of view, so that way all these things that we can get out, our voices that would say, hey, here's why Justin Trudeau has been bad and Liberals have been bad for the last 4 years and why you shouldn't vote for them. Those are now going to get suppressed, and all the news articles that are talking about this are going to get suppressed, so that way that the ones that are very pro-Trudeau, a lot that come out of the CBC and that, those are the ones that are going to be pushed to the surface. And it will be certain things like how it seems very clear that this election is going to come down to Justin Trudeau calling all Canadians that don't vote for him white supremacists, Nazis, and all sorts of names, and then Google's going to back that up by pushing forward articles like the ones that recently have been coming out of Global News that have said, 50% of Canadians have racist thoughts, Islamophobia is on the rise, all this bullshit that they've been reporting on and talking about lately. And this is nothing new. We've known that this has been going on for some time. The point is that we finally have the confirmation that we need with a Google Insider with internal use documents for Google as well. And even looking at like Google Trends as an example, we can see how they're manipulating the results. So I find that this is where most of the attention should be, rather than the attention being, oh, PragerU is censored, Steven Crowder's censored, Dave Rubin and Tim Pool are censored. You know, they're censoring conservative voices or non-politically correct voices. It's really more the danger comes, like the censorship is bad enough, but the real danger comes from election manipulation. And that's what we got to look forward to in the upcoming election. So stay tuned, because you're going to see a lot of it going on. And now you know what to look for. It's going to be pretty brazen in our faces. This is why Google does need to be broken up, because even as that woman, Jen Janai, ended up saying, she says she doesn't want Google broken up. None of them want Google broken up, because then they can't, pretty much, more or less, we can't manipulate the next election. Because she was saying, well, if you break it up into all these smaller companies, then the problem is that, none of these companies are going to have the resources to prevent what happened in 2016 happening again. And this is going to happen here. This is going to happen all over the world. Sure, Donald Trump's the big one, but you think that the next time that there is an election in Hungary or Italy or many of these countries that are facing these right-wing populists, or just even the main conservative parties in general, you're going to see them get manipulated by this in order to push an ideology. In a lot of ways, they've just proven that they really are Big Brother. So that's all I really wanted to talk about. I'll be back soon with a video where I'll be discussing about these, talking about Canada 2020 and data science. I think I'm going to be starting up a new limited series that's called a 2019 election profile, which is going to be covering different party platforms, debates, the attack ads that go out, and third parties that are going to be involved in upcoming election. So it's going to go on from here on until the election actually ends up happening. Don't really have a set schedule for them, or what I'm going to be talking about each week to week. I'll kind of play it by ear, but stay tuned for those, and I'll be back soon with another video for you guys. Talk to you soon.